Hello, my sweet friends. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you are all doing well. I had a fun project planned for you today, and so we are going to be making a folio. This time it is an accordion fold, so we have a lot of room for pictures and journaling, and it folds in each different direction. Of course, I am working with my new printable. This is the Butterfly Library frames printable from my shop, and I just absolutely love those beautiful warm rich colors, and I do love reading. I think most of us can say that. Unfortunately, I am a Kindle reader now just out of convenience, but I love the look of books, and these shelves are filled with beautiful flowers and books and butterflies. So of course I had to use those, and so we're going to be creating this accordion fold folio with a super sturdy cover today. And if that sounds good to you, then stick with me and we'll make it together. For the accordion portion of this folio, we're going to be starting with 65-pound weight cardstock, and I have this cut to be 6 inches high by 10 1/4 wide. It's scored at 5 and 5 1/4, so each portion is going to have a 1/4 of an inch depth, and then I am going to adhere them together on one side in such a way that I can alternate those thicker spines. And so I'll just show you this from this perspective, and then you can see how I'm just going to alternate those so that I wind up with 3 of the thicker spines on one side and 2 on the other. And to combine those, I will just be using my 2 glue combo. So let's do one here so you can see. We'll pull my tape, backing off. Add my Tombow. And then bring these together with the corner going right down into that score line, keeping it nice and straight and even across the bottom and the sides. So once we get the first one done, I'll pull that up and you can see how I've got this fold going in this direction and this fold going in that, and we're just going to repeat that process until we get the remaining pieces done, and we'll wind up with the portion that folds this way on the back, and I'll show you why when we get to that point. So I'll just get these all adhered, and then I will jump back in when we're ready to continue on with the next step. Okay, now I have all of these separate sections combined because I want to start with my front page going toward the left, and then I want this back page available to adhere between the layers. So let's move on to our next part, and that's going to be this 110-pound piece of cardstock. It's cut to be 6 inches high by 11 inches wide, scored at 5 and also 6. And so now what I want to do is I want to bring these 2 pieces together where the back portion of our accordion is going to be adhered directly to that 110-pound base. So let's go ahead and add our 2 glue combo. So I'll just take those corners and bring them together right along that score line. That is going to be the back cover. So the last step on the cover is to go ahead and wrap that around so that we can have a nice finished edge, and this way we're going to capture the part that adheres these accordions to the cover inside of this layer. So these are going to be 65 pound weight cardstock. They're 6 high by 10 wide and scored at 5, and 2 glues is going to ensure that these are held together very securely. So I'm just going to bring that together and fold over the edge to make sure that everything is nicely lined up. Got my 2 glues added now, and I'm just going to flip that other side over and adhere it to the book. Now we have a back cover that is going to be 4 pages thick, and so that will be very sturdy. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this side as well. We've got our cover all set now, and you can see we have our sturdy cover, and then we have our accordion. This is going to fold twice in this direction and then also twice in this direction. So we're going to have plenty of room to put our pictures and journaling. The next step is to cover the spine so that we can have it with the finished edges. And so I'm going to be using cardstock that measures 5 7/8 by 7/8, and the pattern paper is 5 3/4 by 3/4. I'm going to do this portion off camera because it's a little bit easier for me to see if I can pull it closer to me. So I'll get that done and I'll be right back. I've got my spine covered on the inside and the outside now, and so that is going to add a great amount of thickness and sturdiness. Now we can start working on our full-size pages, and since these are all the same size, this is going to be fast and easy to cut, and you only need one set of measurements. So the cardstock is going to be 5 7/8 by 4 7/8, and the pattern paper is 5 3/4 by 4 3/4. Now I mentioned that I wanted to use that printable, and so I did print a full sheet of those and picked 7 of them for this project. I have measured a piece of cardstock to be 1/8 of an inch higher and also 1/2 of an inch wider, so that when I adhere my image, I can score it at 1/8 of an inch from the edge. So I'll have that same nice even border all the way around. And then I also cut a piece of non-contrasting cardstock for the inside, and this is the place where you could add your journaling that goes along with your pictures. And so whatever size you decide to print this, that same set of steps will work perfectly to get a nice even border of your cardstock around your image. I also took a minute to add a fair bit of stickles to this, and I just highlighted some of those details. So you can see I have just wrapped that around and adhered it to the cardstock tape that was already there. And then I already did add just another layer of my double-sided tape for this, and I can adhere this. So it's probably going to be easier to work if you can get this as flat as possible. So you may need to maneuver this a bit as you're working along, just so that you can get it closer to you in a flat surface. So I'll have the border of that pretty blue cardstock as well as the base, and this is going to wind up to be our first page, and I'll just fold that back over so you can see how that will look, and then you can flip that open and add your details. And I want to have my 2-page layouts matching. You don't have to, but I think this is a great way to work through a lot of your stash, because even if you choose to have your 2 pages matching, you don't have more than 2 pages showing at once as you're flipping along. So that way you can rotate in different patterns and get use out of them and get them out of your stash. So let's continue to get all of these surfaces covered. I'll go ahead and give you a little nice music to listen to, and then we'll speed through this. When we're done, we can finish. When we're done, we can finish the cover. So let's alternate our blues and this pinky orange color, which is working perfectly with those beautiful butterflies in the background of the images. We've got the inside covered. Now let's just flip through that really quickly. You can see we have alternated our colors here, and we're winding up with all of these beautiful 2-page layouts with our tip-ins added. And then of course it flips back this way. And so we're actually going to get to use almost the entire of the printable for this project. So let's just go ahead and add the back on now. Press that down well so it gets a good contact. Now that is covered on the back, we can add the layers for the front. So I'm going to do a little bit of a different arrangement than I typically do. Of course, I am going to start with my base layer with the cardstock as a border. And then instead of going right to my layering pattern on the bottom, I'm going to add doily. Now to fill the amount of space, I just elected to cut my doily into 2 portions so that it would stretch the amount of space that I need it to. And I've got a couple of other layers here. I'm going to place them on just temporarily so that I can see how everything needs to line up to make sure that I'm leaving the amount of room that I need and covering all the surface that I can. So I'm going to push that first portion in a little bit, and then this one as well. I'll hold that in place. And I'll just tack that on with a little bit of hot glue. For the image on the cover, I put it on a thick piece of cardstock and cut it out. I'm having the double-sided tape on the bottom portion and the foam spacers on the top, just so that I can get a little bit of dimension here and still be able to tuck that in underneath those layers. So you see I've got a portion of it flat and a portion of it is dimensional. And we were able to get a lot more use out of that doily by cutting it in half. So now I want to add that stripe. This is a companion pattern. And so I'm going to add that with a piece of the blue cardstock as a border between the layers. And I'll just line that up with the base pattern. And you can see how we've got a little bit of a layering effect going on. I'm just going to open that book so that I can work on a flat surface. Now I want to add my florals, and I have created an arrangement with the offcuts from the book. So I have 1 large, 2 small flowers, 2 die cut leaves, some netting, and loopy twine bows. And you'll notice I did not create a curve as I usually would, because this is going to be over all the way to the edge. And so this is going to act as more of a straight arrangement. Before I add that though, I've got a couple of extra details that I want to incorporate. So this is a die that I've had in my stash for a bit. It just came from a design team box I got when I worked for Bo Bunny. I decided to use a blue so that it would coordinate well, but I wanted it to stand out a little bit as well. And so I decided to cut that from a glitter paper. So that will be a little bit of extra sparkle there. And so I'm going to add 1 down onto the base first. I cut this originally thinking I could incorporate the other portion on a different section, but it didn't work out that way. And that is okay, because I would still need to have it underneath the flowers anyway. And so let's just go ahead and add this now. You see I have also finished this with a bow created with a light blue wrinkle ribbon from Really Reasonable Ribbon. And I also finished my flower centers with Stamens from Really Reasonable Ribbon as well. So remember, that's going a fair bit over. And then my second butterfly, I'm going to incorporate up here. So this will help to fill in and extend that arrangement a little higher. So I'm going to add this with hot glue. See how pretty that is, creating that curve. Now I do want to use my finishing details that I love. I've got a couple of butterfly charms here. And tapping that with a button to hide those cut strings. The final detail for the cover is going to be some sequins, and I'm using these to help balance those charms on the top. So that's going to be all for our tutorial today. I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, let me know by hitting that like button, leave me a comment, and don't forget to subscribe. Remember, you can find links for the products I mentioned as well as our socials in the description below. And as always, I'm wishing you a happy and productive day. And I thank you so much for watching. Bye.